Welcome in to the first edition of Cali Talk Sports. My name is Joe Cali. Of course, I'll be your host, taking you through the NFL season from the start of the regular season, as that's upon us now, all the way through the postseason and all the way through the offseason, which hopefully and, thankfully, we have a long time before we get back to that speculation and not really having anything solid to go off of. Right now, the opening weekend was nothing short of spectacular, so we've got a ton of NFL action coming up to talk about, and we're going to break it down a few episodes a week. I've got one big game to go over today. If you can't tell, the team I'm representing and who's behind me, the hometown team, I guess, the big game from Sunday Night Football, but there are others that I want to get through at some point this week. Just a little programming note for what the show is going to be. It's going to be a shorter podcast, but more frequent. To allow for more interaction, everything along those lines. So you'll see more of episodes, but they'll be about 10 minutes maximum, I would say. Trying to shoot right around there. And I hope you all listen. I hope you all watch on YouTube. It'll be on Spotify. It'll be on Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. It's pretty exciting for me. Just starting this up. Got a lot to talk about with the NFL, especially. Sports betting we're going to get into as well. Some betting lines, some picks as the week comes to a close. We're going to predict some games and see if we can't predict some correct slates here and see how it goes. But if you're already watching on the first episode, first attempt, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Let's get into it. As per mentioned earlier, before the spiel there, one big game I really want to talk about today on the first episode, and that is the Bills-Ravens Sunday Night Football heavyweight bout. 41-40, the final score. Absolutely remarkable. I guess on both sides of the ball. The Bills, not until the last 7 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it was. The first drive was great for the Bills, and then it was lackluster from there on out. The Ravens were killing them for 90% of this game. It was in hand for Baltimore. And some mistakes on coaching, I would say. Mistakes, Derrick Henry with that fumble, that can't happen. They went away from the run game with Derrick Henry. They started using Justice Hill, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson works from time to time, but Derrick Henry was basically tripping over the Bills' defensive line and still getting about 5 yards per carry. So, it boggled my mind a little bit. But hey, when they did give the ball back to him at Oliver, the Bills' defensive tackle, was able to punch it out and get the job done. It was. As a Bills fan, right, and I'm not going to be a huge Bills homer. I want to talk generally about the NFL and, what we're seeing on a weekly basis, especially in divisions like the AFC West where everything's so tight. But in this game, the Bills were not exciting by any means to start things off. The first drive really was not put together all that well. It looked like, they went and scored, but there was almost an interception. Allen looked a little shaky in the pocket. He didn't play at all in the preseason, and the starters didn't play for more than a quarter in the first preseason game. So I can understand the shakiness, but still, against a game like the Ravens, where this game especially could have implications for January. You're already a game ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs now because they're 0-1, and now you're a game in hand against Baltimore. So two of your biggest issues while obtaining the 1 seed, if you're Buffalo, are now completely out of the way. You could be in a better spot going into week 2 against the New York Jets if you're Buffalo, but this game had a lot of weight to it, and it did not look like it was going in the Bills' favor in the slightest at any point up until the final 5 minutes. Just looking at the box score here, Allen ends up putting up an unbelievable stat line: 33 for 46 for 394 yards, 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. A vintage Josh Allen performance for the Buffalo Bills. And Lamar Jackson had himself a day as well. If you look over at the Ravens, not as many passes attempted, right? 14 for 19, 209 yards and 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson also had a rushing touchdown. He had 70 yards on the ground. So Lamar Jackson was doing very well too. You look at the running backs. Now, this is where the stark contrast is. Derrick Henry, 18 carries for 169 yards, averaging about 9.4 yards per attempt. And he had 2 rushing touchdowns that were monstrous. Stiff-arming Bills safety Cole Bishop, his head bouncing on the ground like a basketball. And now looking over at the Bills running back room, James Cook did have a good day. Allen was the leading rusher with touchdowns in scoring, but James Cook in yards and carries was the leading rusher with 13 carries for 44 yards and 1 touchdown. So it was a turnover-free game interception-wise, but there were fumbles on the Ravens' part that really screwed the pooch at the end of the day. And that's what it came down to. It was the Bills waking up all of a sudden, showing signs of life, and the Ravens selling. And I just to focus on that for a second, sitting there watching that game, because I do that for work. I have to write the game story and everything like that. So I was in depth watching this, trying to understand what exactly was going on with the Bills. And it looks like, Allen ended up putting the cape on and he put up a full game stat line in the fourth quarter. But Lamar Jackson, it wasn't, as much as people are going to point the finger and say, Allen's better than Lamar. The quarterbacks did not play each other, okay? And honestly, I would look immediately to the coaches because you had a fourth and two, and with a little over a minute left to play, you could have finished the game if you got a first down, finished it out, had the Bills burn their 3 timeouts, all that stuff. But you punt to the MVP. If I'm a Ravens fan, my mind is boggled. And this is already after you went away from Derrick Henry running the football and you were running with Lamar Jackson and Justice Hill and Zay Flowers, throwing some screen passes to Zay Flowers. Like, I don't know why they went away from what was working, and then you end up punting to the MVP. And what does the MVP do? He marches down the field and sets up a 41-year-old Matt Prater for the game-winning field goal on a fire drill kick. This game boggled my mind. Talk about week 1 action. We got it. This was the best possible outcome for anyone living in Buffalo like myself. But as an average football fan, just watching this game, what more could you have asked for? 41-40. The Ravens still cover the spread. They were 1.5-point favorites. It's a 1-point game. So in the primetime window, the stat will still stand that the Ravens cover the spread. They're like 12-1 now with this game, not straight up anymore, because the stat was 11-1 straight up and against the spread on road primetime games since like 2022. Now they're 12-1 against the spread and 11-2 straight up. So the stat changed a little bit, but still, they covered the spread. That was their game to lose. I mean, you heard the commentators, right? Mike Tirico, especially you hear Chris Collinsworth. I know he's a lot of people's favorite commentator. You hear him absolutely just saying how embarrassing it is for Cole Bishop and the Bills and all that stuff. And this game completely turns on its head. This is where I might sound a little homerish for the Bills, but I mean, realistically, let's look at this at a just unbiased angle. You watched those 2 teams last night. You watched the 2 teams. Baltimore has the most talent probably of any roster in the NFL. I think they are the most talented football team in this league. They have so many good players in so many different positions. Their defense is stacked in the secondary. And then you look over on the other side and you see the Bills, and it's a LeBron James and Cavs situation. That's kind of what you're looking at. I don't feel comfortable with that. As a Bills fan every game? No, I do not feel comfortable with that. I'm comfortable in Josh Allen's ability, don't get me wrong, but I don't like that it's so Josh Allen reliant, because the Ravens were doing everything they could to take every other part of the game away. James Cook, 13 carries for 44 yards and a touchdown, but it wasn't spectacular for him by any means. He's had better games. They were throwing everything they could at Allen in the offense. And the guy with the gold shield for the MVP stood tall, did what he had to do. He looked even cooler and more collected on the game-winning drive than he did when he opened the game. He settled in. He took a breath. He figured it out. Then Matt Prater kicks that game winner. This, to me, solidifies the MVP decision from last year. And I think it did for a lot of people. You heard the chants on the broadcast last night. MVP, MVP. Whenever Allen did anything in the beginning, and whenever Lamar Jackson did anything throughout the game. MVP, MVP. Lamar Jackson had a great season last year. Don't get me wrong. But if he was in Josh Allen's position, I don't think the same outcome the Bills got happens. Clearly, because they had the win, and he could not finish the game out for them. He said it in his post-game press conference. Got to finish these games. That's been the one fault of the Ravens throughout their most recent run. They can't finish games. The postseason last season against the Bills in the divisional round, they couldn't finish that game. Mark Andrews dropped the ball. They could not finish it out. They couldn't tie it up. And Josh Allen still had a minute and 40 seconds, even if they did tie it up. So I don't think it would have been that big of a change. I think the Bills still would have been able to take care of business. But neither here nor there at this point. We're talking about the game from last night. I think Allen really stood out as MVP. In fact, he did so much that before I started recording, I did take a look at the MVP odds here. And even after, the slow start for the Bills, everything like that, Josh Allen leaps Lamar Jackson as favorite for MVP of this season after leading the stunning comeback over the Ravens. So, when Josh Allen puts up 251 yards alone in the fourth quarter, and not even in the entirety of the fourth, that is the entirety of the fourth quarter, but really within the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter, that's when everything started going crazy. Allen is now plus 380 to be the MVP, betting odds wise. Lamar Jackson plus 550. Burrow and Mahomes plus 600, plus 650. Then it's a big jump from there. Jaden Daniels plus 1,000, and then it goes up from there. But Justin Herbert's even up there, plus 1,400 now after he beat the Chiefs. So Allen is already he's 200 points up right now in the betting markets. And it just shows you what the betting markets really know. I guess this makes sense, but the whole poly market sports and how they predicted the MVP last season, and that's truly, it's like this. It's like you're buying stock in this side, the market's going to shoot up that way. You're buying stock on the other side, it's going to go down that way. It's weighing what people are thinking. It's not really, it's not really showing you an exact line, if you will. So that's what it was last night. Predicted a 99% chance of victory for the Ravens in the final quarter, in like the final 5 minutes. 15 points up and 5 minutes left to go. No, that's what Josh Allen does for your team. That is why he was the MVP last season. Because when there's 5 minutes left and you're down by 15 points, he still wins you the game and puts you in a position to win. Lamar Jackson, Bills stopped him. He couldn't finish the game out for the Ravens. So those are a few takeaways from Bills Ravens. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. Like and subscribe. Write a review wherever you're listening. And you can always feel free to reach out on Twitter to me at Radio's Joe Cali, handle for my other job, if you will. Or, just leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking. I'm intrigued to see what you think about this game. And is it just a week one crazy matchup where both teams are kind of just throwing everything they can out there and seeing what sticks? Or is this going to have some serious implications in January? But without further ado, that's going to do it for the first edition of Cali Talk Sports. Thank you for listening, whoever does. And, we'll talk to you later this week. We'll have more on the week one recap of the NFL season coming up later. As the week goes on and shifts, we will go into predictions for week two coming up later.